Yo, what's up guys, I'm Tech. So on a previous YouTube video, we went over a microphone, and in that video, I explained how important it is to have really good audio quality on a video. But on today's video, we're going to be going over on the video side because visuals are also as important as the audio quality when it comes to making a high quality YouTube video or pretty much any type of video. So today, we're going to be going over one of the best budget 4K cameras under $500. So this is the Panasonic Lumix G7, and considering how old this camera is, it is in my opinion still one of the best budget 4K cameras that you can buy right now to start making high quality videos. I know a lot of YouTubers still use this camera. In fact, this was actually my main camera before upgrading to the Panasonic Lumix GH5, and overall, this camera didn't disappoint. The video quality is very nice. I shot commercials, music videos, real estate videos, tech videos like this one, and pretty much any other type of video work that you could think of. And the results were absolutely amazing, especially when paired with a high quality lens like a Sigma 18-35 with a metabones speed booster. And a lot of people actually thought I was using like a GH5. That's how good the footage is on this little beast. The only downside with this camera or any other type of Panasonic camera in general is the fact that it has a micro four thirds mount, meaning it is a smaller sensor compared to APS-C or a full frame sensor that are found on Canon or Sony cameras. Because this camera has a smaller sensor, that means you won't get a really shallow depth of field, and it's also not going to be good in low light compared to a full frame camera. But there's actually a solution to this, and that is by using an adapter like a metabones or a velcro speed booster, and this will actually give you a full frame look. For example, on my G7, I was using a speed booster and a Sigma 18-35 1.8 lens, and by using this combo, I got a maximum aperture of 1.2, which is really good if you want to shoot in low light, and this will also give you a really nice shallow depth of field. Honestly, if you really want to take your G7 to a whole new level, definitely invest in a speed booster in the Sigma 18-35. But if you're on a budget and you can't afford the Sigma, another great budget option that you can get for the G7 is the Panasonic 25 f1.7 lens. Since this is a native Panasonic lens, you won't need an adapter, and it's also really good in low light with the 1.7 aperture, and it's also going to give you a really nice shallow depth of field, aka bokeh. Because the G7 is a $500 camera, there are some sacrifices to this, and one of them is that this camera doesn't have headphone ports, so you cannot live monitor your audio whenever you are recording. So if you are recording like an interview, you want to make sure that you can monitor the audio to make sure that you are not peaking and to make sure that your levels are right. So yeah, with the G7 you cannot do that because it doesn't have a headphone port. So that can be a bummer, especially if you do like interviews. You know, you want to make sure that you are hearing whatever you are capturing. So this camera makes it a great camera if you want to use it as a B camera. So if you have a main camera like the GH5, you can use the GH5 as your main camera and then the G7 as a B camera, so just to get a different angle. Another thing is that this camera does not support an external monitor. So with this G7 you cannot add an external monitor. So for me, I think that's a bummer because I want the ability to add an external monitor, because this 3-inch LCD screen is not big enough, especially for shooting outdoors. I think having the ability to have a bigger, larger monitor just makes more sense, because you want to make sure that you are perfectly in focus, and with these 3-inch LCD monitors, it's kind of hard to judge focus, especially on a sunny, bright day outdoors. But again, this camera is under $500, so you shouldn't be complaining at all. One thing that I really like about Panasonic cameras in general is the fact that they have a very intuitive and easy to use interface. And what I mean by this is that a beginner that has never used a G7 can automatically know how to change the camera settings without getting lost searching for a specific setting on the camera. This camera makes it a great camera if you don't have any experience with cameras and you just want to pick up your first camera. this is where this camera comes in handy, and this is the main reason why I recommend the G7 for beginners. The G7 also allows you to shoot in flat picture profiles because it has Cinelike D, which is Panasonic flat picture profile, which allows you to color grade and pose, and it is great because you can color grade your footage and make the footage look a certain way. But a downside to this is, since the G7 shoots in 100 megabytes per second in 8-bit, that makes it hard if you want to really color grade your footage and take your color grading to the next level in post. The colors will start to fall off and you will end up with artifacts because of the low bitrate of only 100 megabytes. But again, if you don't want to push the colors too much, or if you don't push the colors too much in post, then you should be fine with only 100 megabytes in 8-bit. Now let's go over the recording quality on the G7. The G7 can record video in 1080p up to 60 frames per second, which is nice if you want to slow down your footage in post. Unlike Sony cameras that have really great 4K quality, but their 1080p sucks and it looks very muddy, on the G7's 1080p, it's actually very sharp compared to other cameras when shooting in 1080p. The G7 can also shoot in 4K up to 30 frames per second, and overall, the 4K quality on the G7 is just beautiful and really nice to look at. Considering how affordable this camera is, it also has some advanced features like focus peaking, zebra patterns to be able to tell if you're in focus, and you don't really find this type of features on other cameras, especially at this price range. Another thing that I like about the G7 is the fact that it has a full articulating 3-inch LCD screen. Again, you don't find this on much more expensive cameras like a Sony or any other type of camera, and having a full articulating screen is very important because when I'm filming myself, I want to make sure that I am in frame, and also it is beneficial, for example, to vlog with this camera because you can see yourself on the LCD screen, which is pretty handy when vlogging. Talking about the screen on the G7, it has a 3-inch LCD touchscreen and it's fully articulating like I mentioned, and it's actually pretty good. It's pretty sharp and nice, and overall pretty high quality. The colors just look pretty good. It's also bright enough for shooting outdoors on a sunny bright day, which is great, but there is actually a downside to this camera, and that is that the camera does not support any type of external monitor, which is a downside because it is better to be able to use a bigger monitor and to judge focus because it just makes it much better. But at this price point, you can't really complain. If you're thinking about buying this camera for vlogging, it's pretty good for vlogging because it has an articulating screen, but the only downside when vlogging is that you may want to use manual focus when focusing this camera because this camera doesn't have good autofocus. We all know Panasonic camera sucks when it comes to autofocus. Even my $2,000 camera GH5 has terrible autofocus, but I mean, you can use manual focus to manually focus whenever you are vlogging, so this shouldn't be an issue at all. But yeah, that's just something to consider when buying this camera. Now, since this is a budget 4K camera, the build quality does feel a bit cheap. The plastic on this body just doesn't feel as durable as, for example, my GH5s. But then again, you're comparing a $2,000 camera versus a $500 camera. But overall, the G7 is an amazing camera. The G7 offers a lot, especially at this price point, and it is a really great camera. But yeah guys, that's gonna do it for this video. If you guys are interested in a full in-depth review of the G7 in 2020, let me know down below in the comments and I will make a full review of this beast. But yeah guys, that's gonna do it for this video. Let me know if you guys have any questions down below in the comments. But thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next video. Peace.